it's just what I've always had to do. And so this is no exception. And so for me, I want to use that for our players. I want to use that for our team, where hopefully they don't have to have those feelings or go through that as well.
I do have a question about next year, but just one quick follow-up on that. How long before you actually went back and watched that tape?
The next day.
The next day, yeah.
Yeah, I watched it the next day. I mean, I had to just, see, I had to see it. There's lessons from that game that I'll share with our team at the right time. But for me, it took, a couple months, to really just understand, process, feel it, live it, and feel the pain, feel everything that's associated with it. Because in order to be the best for our team, in order to be the best coach, I think you got to feel those things.
As for next year, the Boozers may not be at that. The few players can be at that Cooper Flag level in terms of endorsements and stardom and attention and things like that. But what did you learn in this sort of new era of college basketball from having a player like Cooper that can apply to sort of stars that you might bring in the future who get a portion of that kind of attention or that?
Well, I think the biggest thing that I've learned is to not skip steps or to not to go backwards with how you can approach this thing, because so much now is thrown at anybody we're recruiting right now. They've had opportunities for money. They've had opportunities for brand deals, promotions, like you name it. And I thought that group did an amazing job, and Cooper was the prime example of keeping the main thing the main thing. And knowing if you do it the right way, if you knock it out of the park at Duke, not only is the financial aspect going to be there for you, but for your life, you're going to be in a better position. And I thought Cooper did an amazing job of just being present, being the best player he could be in the moment. Same thing with every single one of the guys we had on last year's team. And I think that's hard to do. I think it's easier said than done, because there's internal pressures they feel. Of course, there's external pressures, but I'm talking about internal pressure of our guys trying to accomplish certain things. And so just trying to take that pressure off of them, keep them present, is, I think, as big of a job that I have as anything.
John, what was the process and how did you adjust post Cedric staying in the draft and then adding Dame and Sebastian? Can you kind of walk us through that?
Yeah, it's a crazy process, right? And you want to deal with people that are transparent. You want to deal with people that are just proactive with their communication. And, first of all, I'm really happy for Cedric, to go 11th in the draft, to end up in a great spot. I thought him, his family, his agent were nothing but pure class, and just transparent every step of the way. So I know the news came out later that he was staying in the draft, but, we had conversations weeks ahead of that with basically explaining to him, like, the program can't wait. We have to make sure our program is in the best position. And obviously he wanted to get as much information as possible. And so we basically agreed, like, we were going to continue to move on and fill out our roster, and then we'd support him from afar with what he was trying to do, because it was very clear when we started talking to him, and then by the time his commitment came, the buzz surrounding him was incredible. I've never seen anything like that. It was, again, like I said, very happy for him, but you have to, somebody told me this once, and, I think it applies now in recruiting, especially in those situations, but coaching is making real-time decisions with imperfect information. You don't always have the information in those moments. And so like I said, the transparency was key. And we had followed Dame for a long period of time, different type of recruitment, but big believer in what he could do. And we knew, just talking to him, and we were so thankful to be able to get Dame here, and then Sebastian. I felt like this spring for us was great. Not just getting those two guys, but I think it can be overlooked, the 5 players returning and the 3 incoming guys, how impactful they can be. So I think that's a big deal for us.
Coach, since you arrived here 19 years ago, there's obviously been a ton of success
19,
here, right? So there's been a ton of success, but the one interesting thing that's missing is the next retired jersey number.
And in fact, it's the longest streak, if you're not counting Mullins and Heyman getting it later, 25 years later after they played, it's the longest streak that there's not been a retired jersey. So I'm just curious, do you think that's still a realistic goal? And what would the retired jersey player look like in your mind? And would you open it up to Cooper Flagg, basically, if you look at his if this was his junior year last year and he had been here, and even if he would have had his jersey retired with everything he accomplished.
Yeah, well, I think it's the most difficult place to get your number or your jersey retired, right? I mean, you have to be some type of National Player of the Year award winner, or break. Bobby Hurley broke the all-time assist record in the history of the NCAA, and you have to graduate. And I'm sure the reality is that happening in this day and age is slim to none. And so for us, I think it's something we have to continue to evaluate, continue to look at, where you don't take away how special it is, because some of these names with the guys that are up there, you want to make that a special thing, but at the same time, give somebody an opportunity. Well, if they win every National Player of the Year award, with which Cooper did, other guys have, by the way, too. I mean, Zion did the same thing, Elton Brand. It's something we've talked about briefly, but at some point we have to take a deeper look, because it's you want to make sure you're honoring guys the right way when they come here. And it's clearly a different environment, clearly different circumstances. And so that's something we're going to have to look at.
Coach, what were the conversations with Isaiah Evans, the decision for him to return to Duke? He had other teams reported within the ACC bargaining for his services, but his decision to forgo the draft, which I believe he would have been like a late first-round pick, to come back to Duke, light it up night in, night out, but for him to come back to Duke, what was that decision like for you and him?
Well, I some of the conversations I've cherished the most this season were after the year with Isaiah, because it wasn't just just great. It wasn't just telling each other what we wanted to hear. It was about his life. Like, this is an important decision for his life and what he does next. And I thought he handled it in a really mature way. Him, his mom, his circle, just of allowing him to make this decision for himself and not be in a hurry. He shouldn't just be drafted. You should be ready when that time comes. And I think he understood that he's got to address some areas of his game. I think I had to show him, just get him to understand what that picture looked like. That's our responsibility as a coaching staff, for how we can help get him there. He's got to be the one to do it. But I love those conversations. I think those conversations set the foundation for what he can do this season, because it was all based on truth. It wasn't based on me trying to persuade or convince, and it wasn't based on him, threatening or what other people were trying to do with that. That happens with everybody, where the only day that matters in the transfer portal is the last day. It's the only day that matters. To think that people aren't hitting, people before then, before it opens up, it's the only date that matters is the day that it ends. But with Isaiah, in his case, he had a decision about going pro. That was a real decision that he had to make. And so I just want him to just enjoy this, not put the weight of the world on his shoulders, to be present, and he's gonna be terrific for us.
John, you've had a fair amount of staff turnover since this time last year. Is this a challenge and opportunity, a little both? Can you kind of run us through that?
Yeah, you know what? I think it's both. I mean, it's incredible. In the last couple of seasons, we've had a coach go to the Celtics, coach go to the Lakers, a coach become the head coach in Miami. That's what I want. At the same time, because it means you have good people. Otherwise, people won't be calling and trying to hire them. And so I'm happy as could be for all those guys. Turnover is tough, because you have to make sure you have to start back at ground zero, which, to be honest with you, is something that's good for me anyway. Coming off of this season, there's a lot of new, and so it gives you a chance to really analyze what's worked, what do we need to do better. The responsibilities within a staff, to me, have changed in the last 3 years. Just what's required, the different functions you need with the staff is important. So I've had a chance just to sit back and really identify really good people. And like I said, for our 5 guys coming back, where I think that can be overlooked, it's the same thing for our coaches. You know, Chris Carrawell is a key guy for me. You know, me and Sewell have had a relationship for a long time, and just his presence, everything that he does. Emmanuel Dildy, just how he's adjusted and how he's grown into this Duke environment. I mean, those 2 guys have been like rocks for me, especially down the stretch of the season where we had a transition happen. So those 2 guys are great. You know, they're going to be embarrassed. But Michaela and Rachel, for me, are, you know, key people behind the scenes every day. So the internal staff, and then when you're able to bring in, you know, Tyler Thornton, who my first year back, I coached Tyler. And Tyler, his journey being the last 6 years at Howard, I mean, he's always wanted to be a coach. And his attention to detail, his hunger has been great. Evan Brad's coming from the NBA. You know, we pride ourselves on the player development here. We pride ourselves on the way that we play. It's very, you know, as modern as could be. It's very similar to how guys would be taught as they go on to their next step. And so what better than to get a guy who's lived it for the last 7 years, being around guys like Brad Stevens, Ime Udoka, Will Hardy. So that's a special thing, and we'll keep growing. That's the bottom line. But I'm really excited about the hunger, the juices we got flowing here, you know, with our staff of how to make these guys better every day.
Hey, John, yeah, you mentioned the 3 freshmen, obviously, a number of times. I'm going to throw Dame in that mix, too. But what has impressed you about those 4 so far? How are they adjusting? What are the things you're trying to get them to focus on right now?
Well, I'll start with the 3 guys we had, you know, committed first. We felt like the Boozers and Nick were as good of winners as there could be in college, and not college basketball, I hope, and that's the plan. But in high school basketball, you know, the Boozers, obviously, nobody's won more than they have, you know, in their entire time in high school. Nick, storied career in California. So what's worked for us is having guys that compete, have great feel, and then they all check the box of great positional size. And so for us, those guys, all 3 of them, no-brainers. You know, just I think they're elite competitors. They're going to fit in right away. Not just fit in, but they're going to make it their own right away. And in Dame's case, you know, Dame, he's played at the highest level outside of the NBA. You know, I played in the ACB. So I know firsthand, like, that's not an easy thing. And I was 24 at the time. You know, he's 18 or 19. I just, watching him on film, seeing him play against Milan or seeing him play against different EuroLeague caliber teams, just really impressed me. I think that translates well to college. So he's had great work ethic. You know, it's been great to be around, and he'll only grow. I mean, he's got, from a basketball body standpoint, he's got everything you would want. You know, 7-foot wingspan, 6'7", can really be a great defender. And then to get Sebastian, you know, I think his story is going to be a great one because he reclassified, and, you know, he chose, you know, to come here, which had been his dream. And I'd seen Sebastian play, and I liked his ability to space the floor and shoot, and then be a versatile defender too. And he's got great size. So I think, and you see Sebastian's body, it's physically ready for college. I think the same goes for any of those guys I just mentioned, which is important.
John, you talk about just assessing the staff and kind of figuring out what things need to improve for this upcoming season. What were those particular things that you discovered during this offseason?
Well, first and foremost for me, like, the way that I've hired is trying to make sure, you know, that you have really good people. You know, that's important. You know, roles are important, and the balance of different strengths and weaknesses, of course. But, you know, the ability to get on the floor from a player development standpoint is huge. The ability to, you know, to be able to understand this climate and landscape is important. You know, we had a staff meeting earlier today, trying to anticipate what's next is something I've really prided myself on, and our staff, on being able to think ahead a couple of steps. I'm not sure what that looks like right now. You know, that's something we're sorting through because it's we can spend a whole day talking about, you know, what does this look like a year from now, let alone several years. And then for me, it's doubling down. I thought we had a really hungry group this past year. And so from a staff's perspective, you know, look, we're at a place where you're never satisfied until you're the last team cutting down the nets. That's the way it is. But for us, we had a special season, Final Four. The hunger is as high as ever. And that's what I love about all the people we brought in and all the people we brought back.
John, it could have been easy for Caleb to leave after last season. What were those postseason conversations with him, and what have you seen from him throughout the summer as far as demeanor, leadership, that sort of thing?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it could be easy for anybody to leave, you know, and the reality is I think now you're making two-way decisions, meaning same thing for us. We could have gone in the transfer portal, you know, or he could have just said, man, I'm going somewhere else. And to me, it's part of the journey. And I love the conversations with Caleb because it's all about what he controls and what he has to do to make a bigger impact. And it wasn't about promises. It wasn't about anything other than what he has to do, what he controls, and obviously the team we could potentially have. And I'm just proud of him. You know, he's put his head down every day and worked. He's talked a lot. You know, he's been more confident, and you know, he really reflecting on last season. He came through in some big moments for us. You know, the last game included what he did in that game. I mean, really all the tournament games, he really made a big impact. So I think for him, this is part of what college is all about. Not everybody's journey is going to be like Cooper. I know we had a unique thing this year with 3 guys right away, drafted in the top 10. That's not the norm. It's not. And so I'm proud of him just staying the course, obstacles the way, keep attacking it, and I think great things will come from that.
Normally when you're recruiting a player, I imagine you're pitching them and the family on Duke, what the program's about, tradition, your vision for the player. But the Boozers, obviously, it's a little different of a dynamic with a father who has played at this program. I'm curious, what was that experience like, or was it very much different than a normal recruitment in that regard?
I don't think anything about their recruitment was normal, you know, because you have 2 special talents and players, and they live in the same house. They're twins, and their dad played here, and it was unique. And we recruited them for a long time. I mean, a long time, and that doesn't happen as much now. And the thing that was similar is for Caden and Cam, they still had to make this decision for them. You know, obviously they love their dad and want to honor Carlos, but the reality is this had to be the best decision for them, or they shouldn't come here. And that's what I try to reiterate to them. They couldn't come here for the wrong reasons, and I think it was difficult because I think from a perception standpoint, you know, it's like, well, yeah, they're just going to do that, which if you know them, they want to chart their own path of who they are as players, who they are as people, and that's what obviously their mom, Cece, wants, and it's what Carlos would want for them. And so I thought they did an incredible job throughout the whole process of just really being thoughtful about really thinking about if this was what's best for them. And we had some great talks along the way. And, you know, I think, you know, I told both of them, they're made to play at Duke, though. You know, like how they play, their background, everything about it, they're made to play here. And so obviously that was an important decision, not just because you get one of them, you get both of them. And that was a big thing for our program. So, well, thank you guys for being here. All right, be well. Thank you.